Hey everybody, it's Sean from Low Code Approach. Thanks everybody for, all the amazing suggestions that we had all year and guests to talk to and just topics to cover. We had a blast with that. We can't wait to do more and we need your help with more topics at aka.ms/low code topic request. We also need your help with ratings and reviews on whatever platform you use to get your podcasts. So please drop a rating, drop a like, and follow us on LinkedIn at the Low Code Approach LinkedIn group. Can't wait to see you there. Hey everybody, welcome to a new episode of the Low Code Approach. I'm Sean Tini, a Senior Product Marketing Manager on the Power Platform team. Typically, here's where I'd hand off to Wendy, but she's over at a soapbox festival learning about posturing. I don't know if that means standing or like actually making a point. Anyway, here we are today with Jocelyn. Jocelyn, can you intro yourself?
Yeah, well, all of my friends here are bundled up for the winter time. My Grinch-like rage and anger is what keeps me warm this holiday season. Hello, everybody. I'm Jocelyn, product manager at Power Platform and Dataverse Security, and I'm here, unfortunately, per usual, with Ken. Ken, how are you?
Yes, I'm here as well, towering above Jocelyn as usual. Now, that said, I used to always still think that I was kind of a big deal, but then I realized that there were other more important people behind the curtain. Adam and Patrick are with us today. Guy in the Cube, how are you guys doing?
Yo,
Yo!
what's up? Living the dream, Ken.
Living the dream.
Sean, I believe you're going to take the introduction in the first question. Sorry, I'm going to jump over you.
Yeah. So, gentlemen, you had a very busy month. Actually, lead up months too, from Ignite to the European FabCon, right? Like, there's been so much news that's come out for Fabric and for Power BI. And like, we had to bring the brains behind the operation to tell us what's actually going on. How are people going to be using it? What are the expectations? And then, of course, we'll drop into what's next and all these other good things. So, gentlemen, could you give us like a quick wrap up on, and I'll ask Patrick for Ignite, and then Adam, I'll ask you for FabCon. What happened? What was the whirlwind?
So,
Patrick, before you get into it, though, I just want you to realize they called us the brains.
and you saw me
That's
look behind me because
I
I
know,
was trying to figure out where
that's
it came
exciting.
from.
All right.
But so Ignite.
You said there was a check in the mail, Patrick.
There's so many things at Ignite, but the big announcement was the announcement of databases, SQL databases inside Microsoft Fabric. Now we just don't have a complete analytics solution in Fabric. We have a complete data solution in Fabric. So you can develop everything from data analytics to operational data storage in Microsoft Fabric. Now there's a big thing. There's a lot of other things, but this kind of, to me, was the big announcement that kind of overshadowed a lot of those announcements.
There was another one at Ignite that I thought got a lot of fanfare, but
Go for
I
it.
don't know. I need to dig into it more, but that was the open mirroring.
Open mirroring is cool, right? It creates some flexibility for people that want to get their data over to Fabric seamlessly. Pretty nice. Requires a little plumbing on your side. That's why.
Not for the faint of heart.
Yeah, but the database, think about the databases. If you are a SQL person, someone that's been working with databases like since the 1900s, this guy, right? It just works. And it's not like a light version or a trimmed down version of SQL Server. It's the version of SQL Server that we've been using and loving and knowing for so many years. You could even create indexes in it, constraints that work, identity columns, merge statements. You could do everything that you could do in the traditional SQL Server as this SQL Server in Fabric.
I think, Patrick, it sounds like you're kind of stealing some of my questions. I was just about to ask, like, what are the advantages of using what you just mentioned, like over traditional databases and so on?
Well, it's integrated. And to think about SQL Server today, if you set up your SQL Server today, there's click, choose this, choose that, choose this, even if you do it in Azure, right? And I'm not knocking the on-prem version of SQL. I'm not knocking the Azure version of SQL. I'm a little partial, but the version of SQL in Fabric, you literally click, give it a name, and you have SQL. And not only do you have SQL, but you get an endpoint that's synonymous with like the instance name. And I can open up Management Studio, Azure Data Studio, and I can drop that endpoint name in. And I can use the tools that I'm familiar with to work with and manage and develop against my SQL Server. So you have a SQL Server in just a few clicks.
Awesome. So I would love to learn a little bit more about one thing. A couple episodes ago, we had Mick on and we were talking about analytics and monitoring, all of that really good stuff in the Power Platform lens. But one thing that we definitely have new in that side of the world is stuff with Fabric Link and Fabric Shortcuts and bringing information over. Can you explain to me some of the mechanics behind that?
For shortcuts or monitoring, which part?
Shortcuts.
Yeah. Shortcut is a piece of cake. And so you're not actually moving data. So let's say you have data in Dataverse or you have data in ADLS Gen 2 or all over the world, and you want to use Fabric with that data. Instead of copying that data right in the process using Power Automate, for example, or Azure Data Factory or some other ETL tool to take that data from one destination into Fabric, shortcut is just the pointer. And so once I create that shortcut, it's literally point, click, shift. I point to the location of that data, create my shortcut, and none of the data moves from that source. Fabric just consumes that data. It makes that data consumable via Python, via the SQL Analytics endpoint, or my data engineers, my data scientists, my app developers, anyone can access that data pretty easily.
So, and I'll make it a little simpler too. If you're familiar with Windows shortcuts to like files in your drive, it's a similar concept, right? It's just the pointer. That data stays where it's at.
Yeah, it's nice. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm in love with shortcuts. Stay tuned. I got a video coming out about Databricks on our YouTubes. Yeah, stay tuned.
Hey, so there's another two words that came up when I was checking out news, data activator. Can you guys tell me more about data activator?
So we don't call it data activator anymore.
Of course not. Why would we do that?
We call it just activator.
Oh,
We drop the data.
I'm sorry. I have to make a mandatory Soul Glow reference right there, but
Oh, wow.
digress.
No, so Activator is part of real-time intelligence. Really what it is, it's about alerting and taking action on your data, right? And so the best demo I can think of for it is if you're in a Power BI report and there's a card visual or something in there and you just can say, just create a trigger on it and it'll create the activator as part of it to take action on it. It could show up in Teams, it could hook into Power Automate, it can do all sorts of things.
so are there like rules that you can build around the event to mark that trigger? Like how
I don't like rules. They hold me down.
that's I mean, they're
But
there
yes,
to
in this
break, let's be
case.
honest.
Yeah.
But I'm sure
Yes.
like our
Yes.
governance folks.
But in this case, yes, you can have rules. And the rules can be fairly complex too, because you could do things normally you're like, hey, if the number's above this, if it's greater than this or less than this. But one of the cool things that it offers is sometimes you want to know if it's ramping up or down, right? So like, are we getting close to the edge of where it is? I want to know before we actually hit the boundary. And you can do that kind of thing inside of Activator as well.
So while still on that activator topic, can you talk about integrations with that? So yes, I can, make an event and I can make a trigger. Is this something that I can hook up to like a Power Automate flow and then build in some notifications or some other that business process that's based off that trigger? Like what other use cases are there?
One of the actions is to trigger Power Automate, right? And then from there, it's whatever you can do in Power Automate, it can go trigger that.
Adam, or maybe for Patrick, or maybe for both of you. Speaking of integrations, Jocelyn and her team have been working on integrating Purview, specifically information labels and so on, with Power Platform. I'm a little curious. The things that we have mentioned, obviously you all have been around for quite some time. Like, can folks use
Since the 1900s.
information protection with these new technologies that we're talking about today?
Yeah. Label all the things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Label all the things. It bites us in the butt
Oh.
often.
Yeah. When we do demos at conferences, man. Oh,
We create things and do demos and share the demos, and automatically those labels are applied. And then, I can't open this, I can't open that. So everything in Fabric is tightly integrated with those information labels. So when you create the object, and if you don't do it initially, you can go to the settings of most of the artifacts in Fabric and go change that label.
we did something recently and Patrick was like, all right, I'm going to upload this item and we'll share it out as part of a conference.
PowerPoint slide. It was a PowerPoint slide.
Well, it was, in the PBIX file too. And I'm just like, remember to set it to like general or public because it, if we do it on the Microsoft machine, it defaults to confidential or whatever. And like, you can't open it anywhere. So he's like, oh, thank gosh, he reminded
Yeah.
me.
Thank you for reminding me.
But no, the labels are really important and we're improving Fabric and Power BI in the sense of like, we can actually control access to items by way of the labels now. So that's a new capability that's very recent in terms of controlling access for some items. So, because some people are like, well, I want to control individual access. It's like, well, just leverage the label attach security groups to that, and then you're good. So if you have a process for automating that in terms of identity management, then you don't have to necessarily think about it. Just apply the label.
You guys have mentioned a lot had happened since the 1900s in fabric, long before my existence.
It's been a lot, if you're not aware.
Prior to me entering this planet.
Oh, all right.
Little more recent, little more up to date in my lifetime, perhaps in the last 2 or 3 months. We've talked about Activator, we've talked about shortcuts. Are there other top of mind news
Oh my gosh.
that you guys want to call out? Educate me, please.
We just kind of blew past it because we talked about, updates for like Ignite and FabCon Europe recently. And the most important update, I didn't even have a chance to say it because Patrick just wanted to talk about databases. But the most important update that came out,
No, don't
which
say it.
everyone
Don't say
has
it.
been waiting for, and this was since the inception of Power BI, dark mode for Power BI Desktop.
Oh,
I
okay,
know it
okay.
came out
Yep.
at FabCon Europe. It's like Vogue with Madonna or something. I don't know. It's big. It's huge.
You guys obviously had lots of conversations over the past, few conferences that just occurred. What are the top things that you're hearing? What are you hearing from customers that you'd like to share a little bit more as far as use cases or questions or any like things you want to debunk in the world of fabric?
There's one thing that I've heard a lot from people, just from a sentiment perspective, and I'm sure this happens on the Power Platform side as well, just in general. At FabCon Europe, at Ignite, like folks are just saying, like, I can't keep up with all the updates of Fabric. There's too much, right? It's like a fire hose. Like, I just help me. Like, how do you guys keep up with all that? And I'll be honest with you, Patrick and I, we can't. Like, there's no way.
Well, speak for yourself. Speak for yourself.
Oh, that's right. So apparently we're not the brains. Patrick is
Speak
just
for
the
yourself.
brain.
Speak
Yeah,
for
yeah,
yourself.
yeah.
I can
So-
keep up. I
But,
can keep
but
up.
no, it's too much. So the thing I try to tell people is like figure out the general concepts of like the end to end, just how these things connect with each other. But dig in from a business problem, like figure out what's going to work and get you to help you solve the business problem. Don't worry about all the shiny things. Like figure out what is actually meaningful and will move your business forward. And you'll learn things as you go. It's fine. But I just know a lot of people are overwhelmed by everything.
It's probably a sign of aging. I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh my gosh. All right. So apparently it only affects those from the 1900s.
Wow. When they go low, we
Wow.
get Jocelyn. That's
Ouch.
great.
Ouch. That hurt.
Bravo. Bravo. Bravo.
She wins.
You win, Jocelyn. You win.
I mean, I was going to ask Patrick, like, how does he keep up? But I mean, Jocelyn just kind of just threw us all for a loop right there.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Being that I am really mature, it's a really struggle for me.
Yeah, it's not that we're old. We're just mature.
Because apparently I'm not old. I'm just mature. And so since obviously age is a factor, the thing, people say it's too much. It's too much. Microsoft keeps releasing all these things. And Adam answered the question is like, if I have this problem, there's 4 ways to copy data into Fabric. I'm going to go look at all 4 of them. And I'm not trying to keep up with every time they update the Spark engine, every time they, add a new library, every time they give us a new item in Fabric. When I have a problem that I'm trying to solve, I try to look at all the different ways that I can solve that problem and pick the one that most efficiently, because I'm not lazy, I'm really efficient. So pick the thing that most, efficiently solves that problem. That's how I keep up. You may consider me behind because I'm not looking at everything, but in my head, I'm ahead of the curve.
I will say for Patrick, it's a big curve. Some call it a bell curve, but whatever.
There is one that I did read about, and I was like, okay, what the heck is that? And why is this such a big deal? DAX Query View.
Oh, man.
Oh, man.
Oh, man.
It's Patrick's sweet mistress right there.
Oh, my heart just went.
It's a magic word you just said, Ken.
Please explain, sir.
It is the best. You got to think about this, right? If you've worked with Power BI as long as I have, writing DAX,
Which wasn't the 1900s because it
No,
came
it
out
was
after
not.
that.
It wasn't 1900s, Jocelyn. It wasn't this. You would have to use a Management Studio or DAX Studio or some other tool if you really wanted to write some DAX, to write DAX queries, to create multiple measures, to script out your DAX. And so I had to go somewhere else. Now, directly inside of Power BI Desktop, and even in a web browser, I can really write DAX. Even if I script out a measure and change that measure, I can just click a button. I don't have to go anywhere. If you're working in Excel, they have that little formula bar, and that's where I used to write my DAX. It's very similar to that in Power BI. Now I have a canvas, a full canvas with IntelliSense where I can do commenting, where I can, oh man, it is the best.
He's like Bob Ross. He just makes happy little accents on the
I can
canvas.
just sit at 2 o'clock in the morning in my bed with my laptop and write that.
Sorry, Jocelyn, you may not know about Bob Ross. Sorry.
It's amazing. And shout out to Zoe Douglas and the team that made that vision come true.
I need to add something, Patrick, to this because you really glossed over it. The key important thing of what really makes the DAX Query View amazing. It's Copilot.
I was going to ask this, Adam. I mean, Patrick said IntelliSense. I'm like, well, where's Copilot inside of here?
Yeah, I know. It's Copilot, man. Yeah, Copilot.
Oh, there's the word. That's the magic word. All right, good. Now we can continue.
Yeah, no, man. It helps you. And then Copilot can help you with getting the DAX that you need. And you know, you may need to tweak it a little bit. You got to validate it. But then in the DAX Query View, you can just like press and it just makes it part of the model. Yeah, you're done.
Yeah. Copilot's amazing.
Besides in DAX, what's the other Copilot integrations that were announced that we should talk a little bit more about for our audience?
Oh, right. So something I was corrected on, and I really like how it was framed, is there's not different Copilots inside of Microsoft Fabric. There's one Copilot, and there's different experiences or agents within inside of Fabric, right? And so even when we think about inside of Power BI, there's multiples of those agents or experiences within inside, right? Because we've got the DAX Query View, you've got Copilot for authoring, you've got Copilot for consumption. So like a user of a report can just go get insights by asking questions. So there's other things as well. So in data flows, we've got Copilot for Power Query, which is amazing. So when you want to add your Taylor Swift data, it just goes right in. You can figure that out. And then we've got notebooks have Copilot. So it can help you write Python. It can help you write, SQL, whatever. There's a lot of Copilots or different experiences with inside of Fabric. Copilot everything.
That's such a good point that you made. Actually, we had Richard Riley on to talk about that misconception too of, are there a lot of Copilots or is there just one Copilot, right? And like, what's that actual experience? And so that's a bit of marketing work that we have to do to make sure we get across with everybody.
Well, and the reason I say that too, if we think about just from a Microsoft Fabric perspective, there's one like processing engine for Copilot, and then those experiences plug into that. They're not like each doing their own thing. So in terms of that processing and how it integrates with Azure OpenAI, there's just one processing piece inside of Fabric. And if you think about like an airplane, right, you don't have multiple Copilot seats. There's just one Copilot seat.
Good point. I like that.
Speaking of one, what is OneLake?
OneLake is the foundation of everything in Fabric. It's where all your data is stored. It's the foundation of Fabric. Think about this for a second. When you set up, since I am probably the most mature person on the call, when I was configuring and setting up environments back in the 1900s, we had to configure and set up our storage. And it was using the thing called a storage area network, a SAN. Some of you may not be familiar with this concept called the SAN. And we divvied up the drives on this SAN, and we had data across all the different drives. They were mapped to all these places.
That was back in the 1900s, right?
And then I had to bring it all together. Think about Fabric. When you go in Fabric, you get a complete storage tier called OneLake. All of the artifacts, all of the lake houses, all the warehouses, all the data integration tool, all the notebooks write directly to this OneLake. All your data, everything that is, all the data that's being consumed from all the different languages is stored in that OneLake. We even have a UI similar to the OneDrive UI called the OneLake Explorer. I forgot somebody else called it something, a more interesting name, and I can't think of it. OneLake
You're
Drive.
getting to why I was asking the question, Patrick, because I was going to ask you, what is the OneLake catalog?
Yeah, I'll let Adam answer that one. The OneLake Explorer allows you to interact with the OneLake directly on your machine. So it's just like a file explorer that exposes all your workspaces, exposes all the lake houses that you have, and you can upload and integrate data directly in that OneLake. The OneLake catalog, Mr. Saxton, is...
Well, if you remember back to Sears and Roebuck, and you used to get the catalog for like the things you would buy. So that's similar to like the OneLake catalog.
She will never know the joy of getting that catalog and just flipping through it.
I should have just answered this question.
And we're trying to get the youth audience. That's why we brought Jocelyn on. You're killing us, bro.
You never knew you'd have a Sears and Roebuck.
Why didn't you
reference
just use the Toys R Us
in this.
catalog? Why didn't you use the Toys R Us?
Because Sears and Roebuck is older. So no, but like it used to be the OneLake hub, but now it's the OneLake catalog. And the idea here is how do you discover what's available to you, right? How do we leverage data that's within the environment, respecting permissions, right? So it's only, what you have access to, and or you can request access to items. But it's this way that from all the data items that are inside of Microsoft Fabric, Fabric, which can be a ton, you go to the OneLake catalog to explore and find it and then leverage it, just like the Sears catalog.
It's indexed. One thing I'd like to do is let's shrink back down from OneLake to the Fabric databases again, right? I just kind of want to touch on this and bring it back to people's attention is like, what were the pain points for customers that brought about Fabric databases? Like what on the product team are like, man, we just keep on hearing this. We've got to make this a reality and bring it to our customers. I'm just curious is like, if I'm the SQL DBA and I'm presented Fabric databases as an alternative solution, like what was the thing that made me be like, oh man, I need to go and just hop ship over here?
Let me say, like, I don't look at it in that lens. So I look at it with what Patrick mentioned before, right? Of that, it used to be just the analytics spot, like Fabric was for analytics, but it's more about, we want it to be more about data, right? And so it made sense to bring in databases into Microsoft Fabric from a completeness perspective. Now, that doesn't mean you can't go leverage Azure SQL databases if that's the right decision. Going back to what we said before about your business problem and what makes sense, then go that direction, right? But for Fabric databases, if you want to be able to enable that within inside of Microsoft Fabric to be leveraged across a complete scenario, then this is the perfect option, right? And so also it comes back to OneLake. So this idea of one copy of the data from a OneLake perspective now, and this is really the magic of Fabric, right? It goes back to, I used to have all these things before, like even the items inside of Fabric before databases, you could go leverage those. We had Azure Data Explorer from a real-time perspective. We had Azure Synapse Analytics. We had, Azure Data Factory. All these things existed. But it was that complexity of trying to wire them all up and making sure you had right access. And then with databases not in Fabric, I still had that same problem, right? How do I connect that from a OneLake perspective just to make this work and leverage shortcuts and all of those things? And so now that's available as well, especially when we think about, like, one of the big pushes also that we're trying to tap into are these developer-led applications as part of, like, even like Gen AI or any of the AI experiences of bringing completeness as part of that.
So before I ask you guys my next question, I just want you to know that Sean has been very proud of the fact that he is referring to Fabric databases as FabDab behind the scenes. And this is what we pay our marketing for. This is why my boss calls Sean Manchild.
Hashtag FabDab. I need to actually go. I'm going to go to the feature PM owner of this, Anna Hoffman, because we were discussing like hashtags for social media.
Great job,
dabbed it.
marketing.
I think we need to go with FabDab.
Fab dab. You saw me do the dab right there, man.
This officially makes Sean an influencer, right?
He was not already.
I just melted my seed.
Tell me more about what you learned about B2B sales this weekend, Sean. Anyways,
Where?
Fab dab. Fab dab.
dab.
absolutely.
I'm sure somebody in marketing will kill it, just like they did so many things at when we came up with our own words and stuff. And they're like, you
I
can't
don't
say
even remember
that.
what we
So
came up with before.
I forgot what it was,
Fab.
but don't say it
Fab
because marketing
something.
doesn't like it. It's not marketing.
Yeah,
What we
they
do.
I
didn't
mean,
like that.
Sean
So-
approves, so
That's right. That's right. So maybe Fab dab
maybe
will be okay.
maybe FabDab will happen.
See, that's what we didn't have an influencer that was pushing that
Ah,
for us.
that's our problem.
That
That's
was
our
what we were
problem,
missing.
Mr. Saxon.
And now we have Sean.
I'll talk to
Now we have
Killian Mitchell
Sean.
for you about that. We'll make him an influencer for sure.
So we've talked a lot about maturity and lack thereof this episode. In order for us to make Fabric into a more mature product, what do you guys see is the next big thing? What are top of mind? What's roadmap looking like?
Ooh. So stay tuned for some enhancements around security. That's our,
Ooh,
Ooh, he's
yeah.
talking my language.
we'll just leave it there. We'll leave it right there.
Well, like security. So I like security, governance.
Yeah.
Just those types of operation, manageability. There's a lot of stuff coming. This is also a great segue for me to let you all know about the Fabric Community Conference in Vegas, March 31st through April 3rd.
Yeah.
So definitely join us there in Vegas for that amazing conference where there will be a ton of new announcements of what's coming and what's available now. And you can get $200 off the conference using code CUBE200.
Cube 200.
Cube 200.
You heard it here
Cube 200.
first. We'll put a link to
First.
registration
There you
in
go.
the show notes for for everyone to go and attend. Well, like we announced all this new functionality and everything, and if people want to get hands on with it, is this an opportunity? A conference in Vegas?
I mean, you can get your hands on it right now
With the trial.
and you don't have to wait for that. Yeah, we've got a 60-day trial that's available for you.
Yeah,
And that Fabric trial, it is basically a F64 capacity. So
What's a F64, Adam? I don't know what that means.
it's a capacity. So think about it as the compute that you have available to leverage Fabric items. The one thing that's not included in that is Copilot, but in terms of the other data elements that are available, you can take advantage of those, try them out. So it's great for doing if you need to do a proof of concept or something like that.
So then follow-up question on that. People are trying this stuff out. How do you collect feedback on what improvements can be made or, like general customer feelings towards it?
Ideas.fabric.microsoft.com. So our ideas site, people can like give feature requests, can, vote things up. They can do all of those things. But also like social media, the engineering team in general is very active on social media. And then also our community site, the Fabric community site is a great way. So it's like forums. So I would go to the community site if you're having troubles, and you can go get help from both MVPs, engineering, other users of the product. So like some people like use the term super users or champions or those types of things. Those are all, the community is very active. And then ideas for like feature improvements or things you want to see in the product, like what happened with dark mode.
I like it.
Lots of great options.
I like it. Before we land this plane, gentlemen, any shout outs you want to give?
Landing the plane.
That's a Wendy term, and we have to honor Wendy while she's at her soapbox conference.
Which brings us back to Copilot, right? Because we're landing the plane.
Just the efforts of the entire Fabric team. Shout out, right? Fabric's been a whirlwind. There's been, initially people were skeptical, but I was at Ignite and just a couple of weeks ago, and the groundswell of we're doing this in Fabric, we're doing this in Fabric, we're doing this in Fabric. Can we get this feature? Can we get this? It's been amazing. It's been an amazing
Ignite
journey.
and FabCon Europe both.
Yeah.
It was bananas.
It's been an amazing journey, an amazing ride, and I'm here for it. I can't wait.
There's a lot of stuff coming.
to see what we have.
We're not done.
At the beginning of the year. Stay tuned. The ride's just beginning. This plane's not landing. It's just taking off, to be honest.
No.
Yeah.
We're just refueling.
Yeah, that's it. Mid-air. We're refueling mid-air.
Oh, we're
not
in mid-air
even landing.
refuel. We don't even need to land.
We don't even need to land, right? They're bringing the tanker right to us.
So many plane analogies going. This is fantastic.
One more thing. If you come to FabCon in Vegas, so I was at Ignite, and the real-time intelligence folks.
Not in Vegas.
It's not in Vegas. It's in Vegas, right?
Well, Ignite wasn't in Vegas.
No, I was at Ignite in Chicago. Sorry. I have to say this. If you come to Vegas, you get a chance to drive this simulator car video game thing. I don't know what kind of
Forza.
But
Forza.
we're capturing telemetry in real time. It was absolutely amazing. It's going to be bigger
dashboard.
and better at FabCon.
And
You got to
I
come check it out.
heard, rumor has it, they're trying to get Flight Simulator there as well,
Possible.
which I'm excited for, which also brings us back to the plane references, which is amazing.
So anyway,
Oh my goodness, you guys have so much going. You must have
Yes.
great marketing, and I'll pass it along to Killian too.
The marketing's amazing.
Oh yeah,
marketing is amazing.
Shout out to Ron
Marketing is
Chang
amazing.
on the
Yeah.
marketing team.
Ron,
Tyler.
Tyler.
Ron.
Yeah, Sweat. All of them. They're
Yeah.
amazing. Wangui. All of them are. They're amazing.
Yeah, we love our counterparts over in the Fabric world. Patrick, Adam, thank you so much for joining us. We're gonna our show notes are basically just gonna be a list of links for them to go and check everything out.
Including the Sears and Roebuck catalog.
I'll have a scanned PDF available.
There you go.
Everything's in black and white.
Jocelyn's got to go look that up now. She's like, what is that?
I could benefit from that. No, real quick. I could take a look at that. Thank you.
You'll be shocked at the cost of things.
Are they still around? I don't even know if they're still around anymore.
No,
I
I
don't think
can't
they are.
imagine they are.
No, I don't think so. But we are, and we're so glad that you guys joined us.
I'm so glad you made it, Sean.
Yeah, no worries. All right, everybody. We'll see you guys next time.
Sean the influencer.
Oh God. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you guys for more news. See ya. Bye.